Good morning, everyone. My name is Shreya Reddy. I'm a second-year family medicine resident at The Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center. I'm really excited to be joining you all today to discuss some tips and tricks for staying well at home. Wellness is a really nice term that we hear a lot around us, and sometimes it's framed as something we need to achieve. But instead of viewing it as a goal to attain, I'd like to discuss how to focus our time and energy on being mentally and physically well, but while being at home during this pandemic. I came across a really great New York Times article that tried to put into words this collective unease that we're all feeling as a society these days. And they use the term grief. A lot of us are grieving the loss of something, whether that is the loss of loved ones, jobs, routines, sports, weddings, just simply the ability to go out and get a haircut or a cup of coffee. We're also grieving the loss of sense of control over our days and lives. And they took it a step further to discuss this term called anticipatory grief, which is we just don't know what's coming and what's going to happen tomorrow, the day after, next week, next month, next year. And that can be really uncomfortable. And so I'd just like to start off this message by reminding all of us to just be kind and empathetic towards one another. We really are grieving in our own ways. And so without further ado, I'd like to discuss some things on how to stay well at home. So first, I'd like to discuss productivity. So a lot of us are moving through our days in a to-do list fashion. At least that's how I try to move through my day, pre-pandemic days. And this can be really difficult to do now because we have to compartmentalize things we need to get done when we're doing them from a single space. So in order to achieve this, maintaining a routine is crucial. Try to set weekday versus weekend hours like you normally would outside of this pandemic. I know our days can feel like just this long, continuous stretch of time. So maintaining that sense of a schedule and weekdays versus weekends can be helpful. Try to maintain your morning routine. Change out of your clothes that you went to bed in the night before into day clothes. Try to look at the sky before your screens. And I thought that was a really nice catchphrase I came across because I think a lot of us are spending a lot more time on our screens, whether that be, phones, computers, iPads, whatever you have. It's important to remember to start off your day by looking outside, connecting with the world before you start connecting with each other virtually. Make coffee, eat breakfast, watch the news, try to do whatever you did before we all went into, lockdown. And this can help maintain a bit of that normalcy from your pre-pandemic days. I like to jot down things that I like to get accomplished during the day. For me, it's a planner, but if it's a planner for you on your phone, on a piece of paper, Post-it note, whatever, I think it's helpful to just give yourself a structure for things you'd like to get done. For me, it's helpful to write these things down in no specific order, without a set time frame for each task. This allows me the flexibility of doing these things when I want to do them throughout the day. And it allows me that sense of control during the day, especially now that I feel like I'm losing a bit of control with the pandemic. So for example, I might not want to look at my emails first thing in the morning. I might just want to do some reading for my book club or something like that. And that's okay as long as your job or, day allows for that. If you still are working from home, try to maintain a similar schedule to what you would have at work. So for example, if you work from an 8 to 5 type position, try to maintain those hours. And this can help prevent you from working late into the night and continue to allow a little bit of that normalcy. And also it's important to allow yourself frequent breaks during the day. Many of us are not used to doing everything in one space. And now, with the situation, we're kind of forced to make that happen. We're used to, walking around, chatting with colleagues, moving from building to building, driving somewhere, eating lunch with friends, just things that, are very normal to us that we don't have the pleasure of doing. So that brings me to my next point of physical space. So because many of us are now relying on our homes to function as many different places in our lives, including, our workplace, gyms, daycares, restaurant, coffee shops, so many things, it's important for us to be intentional about carving out space in our homes to help us achieve each of these goals and purposes in our lives. So because we don't really get that much change in scenery these days, try to bring some of that change into your home. Consider rearranging some furniture if that's available to you, every couple of weeks. Maybe that can help make your living space feel more dynamic, different, give your eyes something different to look at. Some little tips and tricks that some friends have told me, change pictures in frames that are around your home, save the dates or memos or cards on your fridge so you have something different to look at. And then try to use different spaces in your home for different things. I think early on in the stay-at-home days, I think a lot of us were using our couch for everything, but try not to do this. Carve out different areas for different tasks. For example, set aside some space for work-related activities or where you can stay focused and productive. Then carve out another space for lounging, reading, watching TV. Mixing up where you sit throughout the day really allows for even a slight change in that visual perspective that you get, and it can make your day feel that much more dynamic. And less stagnant, like you're kind of confined within the space of your home. Just a small example, I've placed a planner that I have my to-do list on, things I'd like to accomplish, on my kitchen island, which is away from where I normally sit to do work. So after I complete every task, I'm able to get up, move from where I'm sitting, go to that planner, cross things out. And that just gives me, purpose to walk around, makes some movement more mindful and intentional. And that, segues into my next category of staying mindful and also focusing on your physical health. So my yoga studio temporary closing felt like the end of the world for me. For me, the act of getting ready for driving to the studio and then physically engaging in a class around other people was half the battle of exercising for me. And now with, no one to hold me accountable, it's challenging to always motivate myself to exercise and stay active. So how I've tried to combat this is designating a physical space within my home. I've rearranged some furniture, like I previously mentioned, and I was fortunate enough to be able to create a mini yoga space next to some windows in my living room. I try to make it a priority to set aside a space like that. And, for you all, whether that's a space, that you can incorporate, free weights, workout equipment, whatever you have, it can make exercising and staying active that much more accessible. I've come across plenty of apps out there for yoga, strength training, cardio, various, stretching, flexibility, stuff like that can really help give you some variety as well. I know this is about staying well at home, but that includes getting outside as well within reason. It's important to follow the CDC guidelines, maintain that physical distancing, wear masks and stuff when you're out grocery stores or anticipate being around a lot of people. But, it's okay to go outside, take a walk, ride your bike, spend some time at a park as long as you're being mindful of the spacing around other people. And then, if you're not able to get outside, because I know that can be a luxury for some people, even spending time by a window or looking outside just to give your eyes a break from all of the screen time and a break from your home and the confines of your walls. The National Park Service has actually put out some virtual park tours that can help you feel like you're traveling somewhere else, in the country or world, and also experiencing some time in nature. So I recommend checking that out as well. Another thing I'd like to promote in terms of mindfulness is really dedicating some time to reflecting on the craziness of the world we live in today. I am a huge fan of journaling, and I recommend that to everybody. I think it's a really great way to just kind of put all your thoughts out there on paper, computer, tablet, whatever. Talk, your stresses, anxieties, feelings, all of that. I think this can actually be a really great activity to do with children as well. I think I've heard from some colleagues and mentors and stuff that trying to get children to understand what exactly is going on today can be really difficult. So maybe setting aside some time to use this journaling as an opportunity to help children or other people, that might have difficulty conceptualizing what's happening, could be a good way to just stimulate some of that conversation. Could also be an interesting, time capsule to jot down your thoughts right now, and then 10 years down the line, look back and just reflect on the craziness of our time today. And in terms of all of this, mindfulness and physical activity, it is important to keep it a priority. So just like all the other work things and errands I have to get done, I do write it down in my planner as something I'd like to accomplish that day, just to make it a priority and keep that on the forefront of my mind. Lastly, I'd like to talk about leisure time and staying socially connected. So a lot of us now are distancing away from loved ones, and even if you are staying isolated with a partner, friend, or your family, we're still not around everyone that we normally would be outside of a pandemic, and that can be really stressful and a lonely time. And for me, I'm definitely an extrovert and like to be around people, and so that was a difficult transition initially to get used to. But it was important for me to get out of that mindset that we're alone. And technology really has been instrumental in that. So try to incorporate social time during your daily or weekly schedule if that's something that is important to you. Make it a point to text, call, video chat, friends, family, loved ones, whatever. Try to carve out time for game nights, wine nights, virtual happy hours, things, I've heard plenty of things going on. An example, get your friends to participate in a meal exchange, share recipes, food, things like that. And I do think it's important to try to continue to celebrate important dates and events. Unfortunately, big milestones are being canceled, weddings, graduations, and it's really taking a toll on us. But trying to take some of that control back and celebrating birthdays with virtual birthday parties, holidays, reunions, stuff like that can help give us some of that control back. And then social media is definitely huge in helping us stay connected, but try to be mindful of incorporating non-screen activities as well. Reading, painting, gardening, cooking, journaling, like I mentioned, all of these things can help, make your day more dynamic and put some less emphasis on all of the screen time that we have going on just inevitably these days. And as much as we want to stay connected with those we love, if that's something important to you, it's also important to allow yourself the opportunity to say no to social interactions. A lot of people are feeling very lonely, and friends and family are really leaning on each other and might be asking a lot of your time to help ease that uneasy feeling of being distant from everyone. And it's okay to take time for yourself and reschedule that phone call or reschedule that video chat that you might have been asked to participate in. As much as I previously talked about staying productive, it's also important to let yourself have a completely lazy, non-productive day. This pandemic is very stressful for everyone involved, and it's okay to just allow yourself the luxury of just taking some time and having a restful day. So as we all are experiencing, we are living in a very uncertain time right now with a lot changing around us and not really a great idea about what's to come. And life is full of transitions and finding a new sense of normal. So I hope some of the things that I was able to discuss today can help bring some sense of normalcy and stability into your lives. So now I'll move on to some questions. Let's see. All right, so there's a question here. What do you recommend for people who are feeling pressure to be productive during this time but are having trouble? Yes, I think this is definitely a great question. I think, like I said, it's really important to just allow yourself that flexibility to know that not every day is going to be 100%, and not every day you're going to achieve everything on your to-do list. There are definitely things on my list from Monday that I still haven't gotten around to, but that's okay because we're still adjusting and taking time to figure out how to just move from day to day. Let's see. Okay, there's another question about, should we be wearing masks when outside and not around a lot of people and walking alone? So at least as far as the latest CDC guidelines that I've seen, if you're outside, more than 6 feet or so away from people, it's totally okay to not wear a mask. I would say it's probably a good idea to just hold on to a mask that you might have in case you do find yourself in a situation where you are around a lot of people. I do know that the parks can get really busy during certain times, especially when the weather is really nice. And it's hard to kind of implement like the 6-foot distance with everyone, and you just have to take that into your own hands. So I think it's okay when you're walking around outside alone, especially if you're running or riding a bike or something. I've seen people wear masks, but I don't think you have to. But if you do think you're going to be around some people, I would just take one in case, and then just try to be mindful of, maybe what times you're going to the parks or stuff like that. Let's see. All right. Well, I think those were some of the questions today. If any other questions come up, you can go ahead and leave them in the comments, and we'll try to get to them and address them to the best of our ability. Like I said, thank you for tuning in. It's been a really crazy time for all of us, but just remember to be easy on yourselves and take everything one step at a time, and we'll definitely get through this together.